gather round and hear the tale of Jack and the Beanstalk. Once upon a time, there lived a poor widow and her son, Jack. They were so poor that they owned only the clothes on their backs, their small home, and an old cow named Milky White. Moo! Their only food was the milk that this cow gave. Then, one morning, Milky White gave no milk at all. "We shall have to sell the cow," Jack's mother said. "Take her to market and get as good a price for her as you can." So, off Jack and Milky White went to market. Along the way, he met an old man who offered to trade him the cow for some magic beans. Jack eagerly accepted. He hurried home to show his mother the wondrous trade he had made. His mother was not pleased. She took the beans from Jack and then threw them out the window. Then, after giving him a sound scolding, she sent him to bed without supper. All night long, Jack dreamt of his beans. He was so sad that they had been thrown away, and so when he woke up in the morning, he was astonished to discover that they had grown. They had grown into a huge beanstalk. They had twined and twisted themselves together, and now they formed a ladder that reached high into the clouds. Jack had to see where it led. Up Jack climbed the beanstalk, up and up and up, until, at last, he came to the very top. There was a road in the clouds, so Jack followed it till he reached a giant house. He saw a giant woman outside, and being hungry, asked her if he could have some food. She brought him inside and fed him bread and cheese. But Jack hadn't finished eating when there was a loud thud, thud, thud outside. "Oh no," cried the giantess. "That's my husband home early. There's nothing he likes to eat more than little boys." So she hid him in the oven and then let her husband in. From inside the oven, Jack heard the giant sniff suspiciously. Then the giant said in a giant, thunderous voice, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." "Nonsense," said the giantess. "You're just smelling the little boy you ate for supper last night. Now settle in for a nap and I'll make you breakfast." But before he could sleep in the morning, the giant had to count his bags upon bags of gold. Jack could hear the clinks from within the oven, until at last there was a thunk as the giant lowered his head and began to snore. Quick as anything, Jack leapt from the oven and raced towards the door. But as he went past, he saw those bags of gold. And thinking it unfair the giant had so much and he so little, he stole one of them and hurried down the beanstalk, down, 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 all the way back home. When he reached the bottom, he rushed to show his mother his wondrous find, and for some time thereafter, the two lived contentedly on the gold that Jack had stolen. But all things must come to an end. Alas, eventually the gold ran out, and so Jack was obliged once more to climb the beanstalk. Up Jack climbed, up and up and up, until at last he reached the giant house in the clouds. Outside, he saw the giant woman. "Good afternoon, ma'am," he said. "Could you be so good as to give me something to drink?" She frowned. "My husband's due home for lunch any minute now. It's not safe." Eyes narrowing in recognition, she added, "Wait, aren't you the lad who came here once before? We lost one of our bags of gold that very same day." "Oh, what a strange coincidence," Jack said, bold as brass. "I'd tell you something about that, but I'm so thirsty I just can't think." Well, the giantess was curious, so she let him in and poured him a giant thimbleful of milk. But no sooner had Jack begun to sip it than there came the familiar thud, thud, thud outside. "Oh no!" cried the giantess. "It's my husband!" And so Jack ran and hid inside the oven once more. The giant sniffed suspiciously, and then he said, in a giant, thunderous voice, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." "Nonsense," said the giantess. "You're just smelling the little boy you ate for breakfast this morning. Now settle in for a nap, and I'll make you lunch." But before he could sleep in the afternoon, the giant had to have his hen with him, and so he called for it. To Jack's absolute astonishment, this hen lay an egg of pure gold that he could see through the crack in the oven door. He had to have it. So, when the giant fell asleep, he leapt out of the oven, crept over to where the giant was sleeping, picked up the hen, and hurried down the beanstalk. Down, 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 down he climbed, until at last he had reached the bottom. He hurried to show his mother the hen that he had stolen and how it laid golden eggs. She was delighted, and for a time they lived very contentedly indeed. But Jack couldn't stop thinking about the wonderful things in the giant's house in the clouds. One evening he decided to go back just one last time. And so up he climbed the beanstalk. Up and up and up until at last he reached the giant's house in the clouds. He knew better than to enter it directly this time, though, so he waited until the giant woman left the house to get a pail of water, and he snuck right in. This time he hid inside a cupboard. He hadn't been there long when he heard the loud thud, thud, thud of the two giants walking. From inside the cupboard, Jack could hear the giant sniff suspiciously several times. "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." "I'll wager it's that rogue who stole your gold and hen," said the giantess. "And if so, he's sure to be hiding in the oven." And she opened it. But there was no one inside. "Silly me," she said, "and silly you. You're just smelling the little boy you ate for lunch this morning. Now settle in for a nap and I'll make you supper." But before he could sleep in the evening, the giant had to listen to music, and so he called for his golden harp. The harp played so sweetly, Jack resolved he had to have it. So, when the giant fell asleep, he crept out of the cupboard, hurried over to where the giant was, and snatched the harp for his own. He made for the beanstalk as fast as he could, but he had forgotten one thing. This was no ordinary harp. "Help! Help, master! I've been stolen!" the harp cried. The giant woke with a start, hurrying after him. Thud, 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 thud. Down Jack climbed the beanstalk as fast as he could, down and down and down, with the giant quick on his heels. When he reached the bottom, he called for his mother to bring him an axe. His mother rushed out with the axe and gave it to him, and so Jack chopped the beanstalk with all his strength. He chopped and he chopped and he chopped. And then it all came crashing down with a loud thud. The giant fell to his death. Now Jack never again returned to the house in the clouds, but with his gold and his hen that lay golden eggs and his magical harp, he and his mother lived happily ever after. The end.